So thank you so much for joining our Instructor Booster Day partner program and joining our Google Hangout. So hopefully this is a new format for us. Hopefully it works out well. As people are coming in, it looks like your microphones are already muted, which is great. So make sure you keep those muted so we can keep down any background noise. And if you do have questions, by all means, direct them to the chat box. And at the end of our little presentation, which should wrap up here really quickly since we only have 30 minutes, we'll try to answer all of your questions. If Emily and I can't get to them by the end of this webinar, we'll reach out to you directly. Cool. So without any further ado, I'm going to hop to it. I thought we would first give you an overview of MobLab, what we do, sort of what the motivation is show you a little bit of our instructor console at a very high level, since we know we have a mixed group here, and then show you a little bit of our integration into Canvas. And then at the very end, leave it open for questions. All right, so I'll go back to sharing my screen. Let's see if I can do this smoothly. Okay. Seems good. Thumbs up. Cool, great. So MobLab is a platform that makes games and experiments for economics and social science classrooms. So on our platform, we have somewhere about 60 games and surveys that can be used in a variety of different ways. Most of our games are used in principals classes and higher education, but we do have a handful of high school instructors, but then also MBA and PhD level classes that use us as well. And the idea is that we're trying to change the way economics is taught. So if you can imagine, in biology and chemistry, all of those classes come with labs. And if every economics class had a lab, that would just be our dream. Because we find that by having students play in games and experiments, they're able to actually get hands-on with the theory and practice and sort of learn differently. So that's the motivation behind MobLab. I don't know if I mentioned this yet, but students can participate either in or out of the class. Most of our users use MobLab in the classroom. But yeah, for the purpose of this webinar, I'll talk about mostly using MobLab in the class. And if using MobLab outside of class sort of asynchronously is interesting to you, just shoot us a message in the chat and we'll be able to get you some more information. So let me switch over to the instructor console. So when you first sign into MobLab, it's so cool to see the chats coming in. This is what you see. So MobLab has the typical class structure. So I've set up my MobLab demo class here. I've got a gradebook, a discussion board. In the middle, you have our game library. And that's where the 60 plus different games are organized by topic. And we also have surveys. And surveys can be used to gather feedback from students, like our experience survey. You can create your own surveys by creating a blank survey and having pop quizzes or checking student understanding. We also have decision-making and time preference, risk preference surveys for behavioral economics classes. That can be a lot of fun. So the heart of MobLab is what we call playlists. And a playlist is really the collection of games that you want to run on any given day. So I've set up a couple playlists here already. You might name the playlist something like after the date or the topic that you're teaching. When the students sign into their MobLab student accounts, they're asked to join a playlist, and that allows an instructor to very quickly and easily go through these experiments and surveys and moderate the content that the students are seeing. So without getting too deep into all of our games or surveys, because we do have quite a bit, I thought I'd talk a little bit about our Ultimatum game. So the Ultimatum Game is a two-player game that students can play in class. So an instructor might set this up, and I think it's a great game to play at the start of class because it gets students thinking about fairness and equality, but also backwards induction and some more high-level concepts, especially for like a game theory class. And the premise of it is, so students are paired into groups of 2, and the first player has to decide how to split $100 between themselves and their opponent or their player that they're playing against. When they make their proposal, the second player gets to decide whether to accept or reject it. And if they accept it, then the proposal goes through as stated by the first player, and if they reject it, then both players get 0. And so you can imagine students get quite worked up about this game, especially when you're playing it in class and they're playing against each other instead of playing it outside of class and against robots. But basically the premise of it is here, so a rational Homo economicus player would understand that by keeping $99 and giving their opponent $1, they're making their opponent $1 better off. So of course that opponent would accept it. But when you are in that second player role and you get $1 and your counterpart gets $99, a lot of times people will actually reject those proposals because it's not fair. You know, why does he get to keep 99 and I get 1, even though I'm $1 better off by accepting it than rejecting it, and we both get 0. So it is a really fun game to play with students. They always get really talkative. If I was an instructor and I wanted to play this game in class, I would add it to my playlist like I've already done. I might review the guide here, which is our game guide, and talks about the different learning objectives, some brief instructions on running the game. There's more content here that we could get into. And then we've got the student instructions. And these instructions you can actually embed in your Canvas course if you want. Students just need access to this link, or you can download our video instructions and put those together as a module in your course. But here's an example of our game screen. It's exactly like I suggested. This is the player 1 rule, and they have to decide how to split the money. And then on the player 2 side, they either accept or reject it. It's a really, really fun game. If I wanted to play the game with my students, all they would have to do is create their MobLab student account, sign in, join my playlist too, and when I press run game, I get this waiting screen. I would see my students filter in here, and then I would press begin, and all of their screens, whether they're on mobile devices or laptops, would show up with the Ultimatum Game, and they'd be able to play. And as an instructor, I don't have to worry about pairing them off. It's all done automatically. So it's pretty slick. A slick way to play a game instead of just talking about it. Another thing, I did bring up surveys, so just to touch on those quickly, since they can be quite helpful in a class where maybe we don't have a game that's relevant, you can add a survey. So I'll just add a blank survey here to my playlist too. And I can add all different types of questions. So I could name this perhaps Ultimatum 1. And then add multiple choice questions, numeric response questions, free text response questions. So it's pretty flexible. And it's nice that you don't have to leave the MobLab platform to be able to have sort of a quiz survey feature. Yeah, so that's MobLab at a very high level. I wanted to keep this section to just about 10 minutes, just so that we could talk a little bit about the Canvas integration as well. So our integration with Canvas, there's probably 2 main reasons why you would want to integrate your Canvas course with MobLab, or vice versa. The first being that we will sync your Canvas roster to the MobLab roster, so that only students in your Canvas course would have access to the MobLab class. And then after you've done some activities, either games or surveys, whatever you want, and those show up in your MobLab gradebook, you can sync them back to your Canvas gradebook. So it's super easy for grading and keeping track of participation. So to get started on that, it sometimes can be a little bit of a process, but basically all we need to do is get in contact with your Canvas administrator. And once we set up our developer key on their Canvas instance, I, as an instructor, can go to my account and go to integrations, and then I have this nice little integration possibility. So I don't even have that if it's not if I can't integrate with Canvas, this won't show up. So I click add, and I'll select the class I want to link to, which is my MobLab demo class. And I just have to authorize from my Canvas that MobLab is an okay product to use. And there we go. So now my LMS class is linked successfully. There's a couple steps that I would want to do from here. The first being that I would probably want to get my students into the class. So we have this nice roster function where I've got a couple students already, but if I send invitations, it's going to pull my LMS roster into MobLab so that only these students get invited. And when the students get this email invitation and they click the link in the email, they're basically forced to use their Canvas email address. So you're not going to get students signing up with crazy Gmail or Yahoo accounts. And that should help with grading as well. So all I would do would be to send invites. Close that. And then the other great part of this integration is our gradebook. So if I go to the gradebook, once the class is linked, you can see I have very limited activity here, but I do have one student that played one Ultimatum game. What I could do here is click export and then sync with LMS. It'll tell me it started, and then it'll also tell me when it's finished. Wonderful. And now that grade for that student will show up in my Canvas gradebook. So I think that's, from the MobLab side, that's pretty much everything you need to know before we switch over to the Canvas side. I did want to point out at the bottom left here, we have this support button. So if you ever have any questions when you're looking at MobLab from the instructor side about Canvas, you can search here and get our whole Canvas LMS integration workflow, videos and all. So that's quite handy. All right, so let's look at what happened in our Canvas demo class. So that should be here. Cool. So I've called my class MobLab 101 in Canvas. I've got my grade here from the Ultimatum Game, or my activity. If I look at grades, I should be able to see that one student, yep, that earned 60. And as an instructor, I just set that grade out of 50. So my student did really well. Yeah, and these students haven't yet joined, but if they did and they had participated, then they would have also had grades there. And then if I go back to my courses, I can, something that Emily showed me that I thought was really cool is we can actually integrate some of the MobLab content into the student view. So like if I wanted to have the students review any game instructions prior to coming to class to play the game, I could set that up as an assignment for them. And I'll switch over to student view here. And now I've got this upcoming assignment that I can review the game instructions. And I can play this little video that we have super strict that we didn't get into about the game, but this is basically a 1.5-minute video about how to play the Ultimatum game, and asking students to do this ahead of time can save some class time, or you could do it, prior to playing the game in class since it is so short. And then finally, I wanted to make sure we left time for questions, but I did also want to point out the Instructure Partners portal. So if you are looking for content on how to set up MobLab with Canvas at your campus, you can definitely go to our support page, but the Partner Portal portfolio also has a lot of our content on there, so it should be super easy for you guys to find. And there's also videos. What's the value of experiments in the classroom, our quick start video on actually using these games, and then the integration guide for both instructors and students. All right. Is there anything I missed? I know I rushed through that. If only to cover a lot in such a short amount of time. Emily, do you have any thoughts?
We've been asked if we can demo creating assignment within Canvas.
Yeah, I think so, within Canvas.
Yes. So the way we've offered instructors the flexibility to either create an assignment or not to create an assignment, and that grade sync will happen either way. However, we do know that students stay organized within a Canvas course seeing assignments. So would you show that functionality, Rachel?
Oop, yep. Okay, so I'm back to my instructor side. So if I go to assignments, I should just be able to add an assignment here and then name the assignment whatever I want. Emily, you might want to clarify this, but so let's see. Let's say I wanted to say complete an Ultimatum instruction review quiz. So there should be some text here, but I wanted the students to complete this quiz. I could assign some points. And I think that's it. But I don't believe that the students could actually complete the quiz from within Canvas. So we don't embed our games or surveys within Canvas. So they would have to go to the MobLab platform to complete any activities. Sure, no problem. Are there any other questions about MobLab, about Canvas? I did try to really rush this, so hopefully there's a few more questions, but if not, that's fine too. This whole Canvas thing is very, very, very slick. You can move assignments around really nicely. Emily, you're muted just in case you're finding any questions come in.
There was a question about showing all of our game lists or our game catalog and how to sign up for a MobLab account.
Yeah, totally. So to sign up for a MobLab account, you just go to moblab.com and click sign up. The process is super easy. You're either an instructor or a student. And it just asks for the basic information. Once you prove your humanity and you give us your email, you're taken immediately to the instructor console where you're able to start looking at some of this stuff immediately. You can demo any of our games. We also give every instructor account 6 test users. That's a really nice way to get an experience on how to use the platform both as an instructor and a student. Students are a little bit different. Students can definitely sign up in the same process, so going to moblab.com, clicking sign up, and then signing up as a student. But when you send those invitations using the roster feature that I showed earlier, the students, if they go through that email sign up process, they don't actually have to give us your class code or their email, since that is all associated with your class. we already know which class they should belong in and what email they should be using. So that's a little bit more streamlined for them. Are there any other questions? I would be happy to show you more games. That's always more fun. Unless it looks like Emily's answering questions in the chat, which is great. A really fun game, just to demo this, to give you another flavor of our game, is actually our insurance market game. So I'll go ahead and press demo. This is a game that teaches students about market failure and asymmetric information specifically related to insurance. So we've got some houses here on Mars, and there's 100 homes in this little town, and every year 20% of them get damaged from meteors, meteor damage, kind of like hail in Missouri, where I am now. And there's a range of values of the home, and as the insurance salesman, I have to set my meteor insurance price. So let's say, okay, maybe I want to charge $20,000 for my insurance. I'll set my price, and then all my homes get destroyed, and we'll see that I actually lost money. And that's because only the most expensive homes end up buying the insurance. So it doesn't make sense for the least expensive homes to do so. And I end up paying out more money than I took in. So that's a really fun game for students too, and also very easy to do outside of the class. We also really briefly skipped over viewing the game results. So I hope you guys can see this extra pop-up, but after demoing a game or playing a game, you can view the results. And this is another reason why these experiments work so well. So traditionally, in the last 10, 15 years, if experiments were played in the class at all, they were using paper pencil. And so the ability to now not have to enter information into Excel to generate some of these graphs is huge, and it really helps speed up the ability for instructors to integrate these types of activities into their class and engage with their students. Yeah. Are there any other questions I can answer?
Can you show the full game list as well on MobLab?
The full game list is like the library?
The catalog page on our website.
Catalog page on our website, yep. Yep, so on our website under, well, catalogs, we've broken this content basically into, I guess, 2 categories. So we've got our game catalogs, which you can download based on what sort of institution you're supporting or you're teaching at. Course-based catalogs, which are by no means complete, I guess, is what I want to say. We probably have upwards of 30 different courses, from economics to finance, game theory, political science, that are using MobLab games. And then we have textbook-based. And you can see it's quite econ heavy, just because that's really where our expertise comes from. The internal MobLab team is made up of economists and engineers. So yeah, our textbook catalog is quite extensive to help your instructors or you pair games that work well with certain textbooks. I go to the econ catalog. Yep, it's just all of our games. A nice long document explaining everything. I always think it's more fun to look at our games from the instructor console. Does that answer the question?
Yes, thank you.
Yes. Yeah, looking at it from the library is a bit more fun because then you can demo things right away, but then you don't get the context behind the catalog as well. Great. Is there anything else you can think of, Emily? Otherwise, we've done wonders coming in 5 minutes before the webinar is supposed to end, which is perfect. Always nice to give everybody a few extra minutes.
We have 2 LMS admins in our group. Can you speak a little bit to what the process for an admin would be if an instructor would like to use MobLab at that institution?
Yeah, absolutely. It really depends on the institution's process of taking in a new Canvas integration to their platform. So we've had experience integrating with a campus can take upwards of, 6 to 9 months, simply because of security concerns that the campus makes us go through some security documentation. And then otherwise, the turnaround's a matter of days. So depending on what sort of hoops we'll have to jump through to do the integration, ultimately all we need is to be set up as a developer. So we need a developer key and an ID in your Canvas instance. I think I have an example of what that looks like. So under admin, I would just need to I would need to create a developer key here. And then share that information back. And we have an lms@moblab.com email, and that's all contained in the documentation on our support site. And then once that link is done, any institution, that's really great. I see Lindy said it's been easy for Oregon State. That's wonderful. Any instructor that signs up from your institution will have this ability to integrate with their Canvas. So to link and unlink is also very easy if an instructor decides all of a sudden they don't want to link their MobLab anymore. It's easy to do it multiple times. Hopefully I answered that question.
We also have a question about payment, if you want to show our pricing page.
Yeah, so I totally skipped all of that. I wasn't sure. Let me get back to our main page. Yeah, so MobLab's pricing is pretty straightforward. It depends on the size of the class or the number of students using MobLab at an institution. So typically classes run from 20, to 60. That's the pretty average college size, depending on what institution you're at, and in which case the students would end up paying $18 per class if they're paying us directly. For institutions that have large lectures or multiple classes using MobLab, we do offer this $12 per student rate. And then there's some institutions that want to cover this cost for their students. And if that's something that you're interested in, there's an additional 20% discount on top of these prices. So it's still a per student price, but the large class license ends up being $14.40 per student. And then the regular class license is $14.40 per student, and the large class license is $9.60 per student. So just 20% off of those. And then high school, I think we have a handful of high school instructors here. Those have even more special pricing simply because high schools have more limited budgets. So I'm happy to give anybody a quote about high schools as well.
And then Rachel, we're close to time. When we wrap up, can you tell our instructors and LMS administrators who have joined us how they can set up a walkthrough with one of our team members?
Yeah, I think the easiest way is to create your own instructor account. When you sign up, there is an option to request a demo, or actually when you sign up or even from within your account, you can schedule a demo here at whatever time is most convenient for you, and we'll get back to you. Alternatively, if you don't want to sign up for an account right away, you're not sure, you can send a message to support@moblab.com and we can answer any of your questions or do another walkthrough, maybe more in-depth walkthrough with you, or contact@moblab.com. All of those email addresses work. This is perfect. Emily, do you have any last remaining thoughts?
Just wanted to thank everyone for joining us. We're definitely instructors first, so we're happy to walk through walk through your class specifically to make sure that MobLab is a tool that fits for you and your pedagogy style.
Perfect. Thank you so much.